And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking, are Red Bull cheated, or did they attempt to cheat? Did they get found out? Well, they certainly got a penalty at the Canadian Grand Prix when Sergio Perez did a whoopsie into the wall, and where normally the drivers would be like, nope, stop that car, Sergio Perez, to the team. We'll be telling him. He decided to carry on with a damaged car to supposedly stop the safety car coming out. Now, some commentators have said, oh dear, this is not very good, have compared it to Crashgate in 2008. Yep, Singapore, Nelson Piquet Jr., when he too did a whoopsie into the wall, causing a safety car to come out. Ergo, Fernando Alonso wins the race. And that's something that Fernando Alonso claims he also knew nothing about. Be interesting. Well, let's have a little chat about it, shall we? After this. So here we are. I'm going to quickly play it. And we've got Sergio Perez, as you'll see. He's going to come down. This is from Slump F1, recorded by a fan at Canada at the hairpin. As you can see, the rear wing, the back part of the car is most certainly wobbling. If you come down again, I'm going to try and show you with the mouse. Follow the mouse. It's around here. There we go. Wobble, wobble, wobble. And let's do things in 3. Let's have it one more time just to confirm the wobbly bits, shall we? So as it comes round the hairpin, you can most certainly see most certainly see the wobble on the car. Now the issue being is, yes, Sergio Perez may well not know how damaged his car really is. You can probably get an idea. He's going slow. He is going super slow. However, no one really knows how damaged that car potentially is after an accident. And when it looks quite clearly damaged, the team can see it's clearly damaged. So why are they then asking him to go back to the pits in the knowledge? And the bits of the car did indeed fall onto the circuit. All it takes is for a driver to cross it at speed, then get a puncture. What if that driver then has a big accident and then hurts himself? Suddenly then, all eyes on Red Bull. And some people are claiming that the stewards were too soft on Red Bull's Perez tactics to discourage copycats. And that's the issue there, isn't it? I mean, the 2008 punishment certainly discouraged copycats, but will this? So for those watching on television, this is from racefans.net. They're saying that the Canadian Grand Prix was clearly, Sergio Perez's at least Canadian Grand Prix was over when his Red Bull backed into the turn 6 barrier on his whoops-a-daisy 51st lap. The rear wing was smashed and what remained of it was very much hanging on, not quite by a thread, but hanging on for life. I think had he put the pedal to the metal, I think it would have fallen off. However, the driver appeared to believe his damage was confined to his suspension and perhaps even hoped he got away with nothing more than a puncture and might be able to continue the race after a pit stop, supposedly. Red Bull could see the full picture, however, which meant their response was, some people are saying, highly significant when Perez asked whether he could return to the pits. Bring it back, said his race engineer Hugh Bird. Now, the FIA clamped down on this quite a few years ago on teams to allow their drivers to circulate with parts hanging off their cars. There were a spate of cases in 2022 involving parts considerably smaller than a rear wing, such as Fernando Alonso's wing mirrors in Austin, Kevin Magnussen's front end wing plates at several venues, if you remember. And in Perez's case, his car was very clearly damaged and potentially posed a hazard to other drivers. Who remembers Felipe Massa in Hungary when a part fell off Rubens Barrichello's car, I think it was a bit heavier than a bit of carbon fibre, hit him in the head, ergo life-changing surgery, which Felipe Massa recovered from. That was, very good. Well done, Felipe. But Red Bull were obviously aware of this, as they warned his race-leading teammate, Max Verstappen, to be aware of debris at turn 10. So his race engineer said a bit of debris around the track at turn 10, Max. Now, we glossed over the detail that it was debris from the RB20. Why would Max need to know that, to be fair? But as Perez headed towards the final corner, where cars at full speed hit well over 300 kilometers per hour, not too He was then warned Verstappen was only 6 seconds behind him. Had his rear wing chosen at that moment to break free of its constraints, his teammate always pursued. It could have been quite serious, because sometimes the carbon fibre is not exactly the easiest thing to see when you're going fast in a Formula 1 car. Now, drivers in these damaged cars, they're told by their teams to park up, as they are all well aware failing to do so will result in a penalty for driving the car in an unsafe condition, a la Sergio Perez. Now, drivers with obviously loose wheels are invariably told to stop before leaving the pits. Now, one of the exceptions, I know, you may say Alexander Albon in Imola occurred, but he was cleared of driving his car in unsafe conditions after his pit stop. So, in this case, the stewards noted that there had been no sign that anything was wrong during his pit stop, and the stewards agreed with Albon's view that the wheel appeared to be still captured by that wheel nut, and therefore not at risk of coming off. Red Bull's situation, though, was slightly different. Now, according to the stewards, during their hearing, Red Bull revealed the reason for telling Perez, and this is significant, for telling Perez to drive back instead of stopping by the side of the track, is the driver had been advised to bring the car back to the pits as they were trying to avoid a safety car situation. Yep, a safety car situation. Yeah, you heard that right. So Perez inevitably out of the race. The only reason Red Bull would want to avoid triggering that development of a safety car is, A, they had their other driver in the lead, and there were his pursuers weren't too... they were not, well, let's just say they would have been a lot closer with a safety car, and it would have made them been able to stop and fresh charge, change the strategy. Now, this is what happened when the safety car was eventually deployed to a different incident another lap later. Karma, some people might say. But it's not uncommon for teams to warn drivers not to risk compromising their race-leading teammate. While Lando Norris, for example, was on his way to his first victory in Miami, his teammate Piastri was given the message by race engineer Oscar, reminder, Lando is leading the race, we do not want to cause a safety car here. Telling a driver not to take a great risk, though, in the heat of battle is certainly one thing, but telling a driver not to park what could be a potentially hazardous, dangerous car is very much a different matter. Now, the stewards recognise this, which is why they both fined Red Bull and gave them a penalty for the next race. In short, the stewards said, the stewards determined that as well as a financial penalty for the team, a sporting penalty is necessary due to the safety implications of the incident. They also added the penalty is imposed in line with precedents, but in this case a new precedent was needed. Although the stewards understood the decision was made to favour Red Bull's leading car, neither of the penalties issued really affected it. The stewards should have asked themselves whether in a close championship fight a team would be discouraged from using similar tactics by a $25,000 fine and grid drop for their contender's teammate. Clearly, they wouldn't. This is not to say Verstappen would necessarily have had a penalty yesterday. The stewards have previously used their decisions to recommend the FIA create as different rules, for example. But teams are so sensitive to these potential opportunities, such as safety cars, it could prove detrimental in a very close championship fight. So this needs to be considered, and that's what racefans.net also say, because given the correct circumstances, the temptation to use these tactics like this could be extremely high. Now consider, for example, if Mercedes had used Valtteri Bottas to ensure a safety car remained out for the final lap of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, as an example. Oh dear. So it's not just race fans on it covering it. A lot of people are covering it. For example, Will Buxton, and he's vocally criticised this penalty that was handed to Red Bull, calling them insufficient given the severity of the offence, which included, obviously, as we know, instructing Sergio Perez to go through. Buxton stated on Twitter, on X, that it was not good enough, and he was basically comparing it at one point to Singapore 2008. He said the team had admitted they told Perez to knowingly break the rules and in doing so endanger other drivers. That's why the rule exists, as to avoid a safety car which they knew could lose them the win. Now, the potential consequences of such actions are significant. Continue with a compromised vehicle not only endangers the driver, but also his competitors, posing serious safety risk. The breach led to the Mexican driver, who's had his contract extended for 2 years, end of 2026, receiving that, that grid penalty. However, Buxton believes this penalty is not stringent enough, suggesting that they require, kind of like the last article we read, severe consequences. Reverse the outcome of the reasoning, he said, and you have a team telling a driver to break the rules to create a safety car to help them win. It's a few degrees of separation. One is a grid drop and a fine. The other is at Singapore '08. And I think therein it lies the massive exclamation mark. So did Red Bull cheat? Yes, they potentially did, although it wasn't like breaching the cost cap or hitting a car on purpose. But yes, they saw something that could be disadvantageous, is that even a word, to their leader Max Verstappen, and decided to break the rules to avoid a safety car. So not the worst cheating in the world, but yes, I think they did cheat. Naughty, they got found out, and they ended up paying a fine. Sergio Perez got a penalty. If they didn't cheat, why would they have had a fine? Why would a Sergio Perez, not received a penalty? Hopefully, though, this could be the end of it, and this does not happen again. But for a fine in a grid drop, that's worth a championship, isn't it? If it did come all down to the wire. Anyway, I digress. This has been the Hot Lap. Give us a subscribe if you want. That'll be absolutely fantastic. Lots of people commenting, subscribing. I really like it. I'm not a Red Bull hater. I like the team mostly. Like most of the people in the team are absolutely lovely, just like most of the people in the Mercedes team. Most of the people in the McLaren team. But at Red Bull, they work so hard, and there's obviously a reason why they've won. They've dominated the last 2 years, and potentially dominated the beginning of this year, and may well continue to do so when we go to Spain. So as I said, give us a subscribe if you want to see more F1 content here. We also cover the WRC, we also do a bit of gaming, and we also cover the British Touring Car Championship. Anyway, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.